Hey everybody, and welcome to the live stream. My name is Nadia. I'm a UK Global Talent Visa recipient and coach. I got endorsed for this visa last year as a software engineer, and ever since I have been helping talented professionals in IT, and now I'm also branched out into the creative space, get endorsed for this visa. So if this is a topic that is interesting for you, I do suggest you follow me on YouTube and everywhere you can find me, because I do share a lot of content on this topic. And I will be happy to help you with your application if this is something that you are interested in. So today I'm joined by an exciting guest. Let me just bring her on. Hello, Olubunmi. Welcome.
Hi, Nadia.
Hi. Yeah, thanks so much for joining. Maybe we can start with some short introduction about you, where you're from, what you do for a living, what your background is, and what made you decide to move to the UK.
Okay. My name is Olubunmi. I am from Nigeria, and I have a background in digital and product marketing. I've been in digital marketing for over 13 years. Started in an SME and then moved into having my own agency, and from there joined a product-led pharmaceutical company. And so I think you asked two questions. The second question was why I decided to move to the UK.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was a decision that um, was made for me. So basically, it's not like I thought of moving to the UK, but things just started falling in place around. I think that was around August last year. Things just started falling in place, and for me as a Christian, I think I just believe that it's God that just put everything together, and yeah, well, here I am.
Yeah, cool. Congrats on getting the visa. Uh,
Thank
so
you.
I've interviewed a couple of people from the marketing background on this channel, but still, I think there is not that much information for marketers out there. So maybe you could talk to us
Mm.
about the process of you learning about the visa. How did you determine whether you can get it? How did you gather information? And what was the process like? Did you do it on your own? Did you have external help from lawyers or just anything? How you get started, basically?
Okay, so how did I hear about the visa? I went to a friend's house. We actually went for house fellowship, and they were talking about another visa, which is the O2 visa for the US. And the person just told me, "Oh, Bumi, you meet the criteria for the O2 visa. Why not apply?" And the US isn't somewhere that I'm for now I'm not interested in going to the US. So when I got back home, I went online just out of curiosity to see what the O2 visa really is about, and then I saw that there was something similar for the UK. So I clicked on it. I went to the gov.uk website, which is the official UK website, and then I went through the criteria. When I saw it, my first instinct was you don't qualify. So I just left it for about 3 weeks. But then it kept coming back to me to go back and sit and really look at the criteria one after the other, which I did. And then I discovered, because the major criteria states that you have to be affiliated with a product led technology company.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I've spent most of my marketing years as a freelancer and in
Mm-hmm.
agency. So, and at the time that I was about to file my application, I was working as the Chief Technology and Marketing Officer of a pharmaceutical company, and I was in charge of the e-commerce platform. So when I sat with it and really thought about it, and it came to me that the e-commerce platform is a product. It is the product, right? So that was how I got over the should I say self-sabotaging thoughts of, oh, you don't qualify, so don't bother. And once that was clear in my mind, I just started gathering my evidences. So I did it all on my own. I didn't um, I didn't use the services of a lawyer or a coach. So fortunately, or should I say unfortunately, at that time I wasn't working because we had closed down the company like a few months before then. So I had time on my hands. So I sat with it and, gathered my evidences and applied
Mm-hmm.
and, got the endorsement in 3 weeks. Yeah.
How long did it take you to prepare all the documents?
About 3 weeks. So I heard I started, I think I started preparing my documents first week in September. No, I started preparing my documents in August, and then I submitted 8th of September. I remember, yeah. So I started prepare. So about 3 weeks. It took me about 3 weeks to gather the evidences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting that you said at first you thought that you can't qualify, and then you decided that you can, which I think is a very
Yeah.
common experience for a lot of people. You also mentioned that a lot of your experience in marketing was within agencies and also as a freelancer. So, how did you end up presenting this evidence in your application, or did you just rely on other pieces of evidences that were connected to a product company?
Okay, so another thing that helped with my application is that I founded a non-profit organization where we teach women and girls digital skills. So I used that non-profit and combined it with the e-commerce platform. So those were the two main, you know, should I say, businesses that I focused on when I was
Mm-hmm.
presenting my application. Although I did mention that I've been in digital marketing for years, but then I started the nonprofit in 2017, and then started working in the company in 2019. So it was just a combination of all of that. And, based on my work with the nonprofit, I'd had a whole lot of awards and recognition and all of that. So it was the recognition from the nonprofit that I used for the application, and then
Mm.
used my position as the chief technology and marketing officer of the startup for the product led company. So it was like a combination of both.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think your example shows how you can combine various experiences in your life, even if your overall profile doesn't necessarily fit this expectation of all product-led work.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting. So, which criteria did you end up choosing for your application when it comes to the optional criteria, if you can still remember, of course?
Okay. Uh, okay, let me just check. I think I have it open on my phone. Because so of course I did the mandatory criteria,
Yeah.
and then OC2 and 3, yes. So the
Mm-hmm.
optional criteria, the second and the third. I'm not sure I remember
Mm-hmm.
what they really are now, but
Yeah.
then
So the
um,
second is the outside contributions, so the things that you do outside of work, and the third one is
yeah, okay.
your yeah.
So that's where the nonprofit came in, and then the other things that I do. So I do a lot of volunteering for other nonprofit organizations, mostly organizations that work with women and try to get more women in tech. So I do a lot of volunteering in those kind of organizations. So, um, but my mandatory criteria, I submitted 5 evidences from the
Mm-hmm.
MC, and then for OC2, I submitted 3, and then for OC3, I submitted 2.
Great. Can we talk about what those documents were? Which, how did you prove the
Oh yeah.
mandatory, for instance, if you can still remember? Yeah.
Okay, so let me just so the first one was the mandatory criteria, which I submitted evidence of speaking at high level um, programs related to what I do. So I submitted evidence of speaking at Social Media Week Africa, and submitted, yeah, so that was the first evidence, speaking at Social Media Week, and it had about 15,000 participants for the program. And then I also submitted evidence of being a trainer, of being a certified trainer, certified by the UN to teach business and IT skills. So I submitted the certificate, my certificate of training, and then submitted pictures of trainings that I led, and also like clippings of flyers for those trainings, and then the link on the UN website where that was talking about the program as well. So that was my second mandatory
Mm-hmm.
criteria evidence. And then the third, um, so I'm trying to open it on my phone. The third was, yeah, because I really can't remember. So the third was in 2018. I was recognized as one of the top 30 women in tech in Nigeria who are helping more girls and women get into tech. So it was in the newspaper, and it was also online. So I submitted like screenshots of that, and then also some other awards that I received, um, 50 top African women in development, women of the year. So I just mixed all like awards together in 3 pages as one evidence. And okay, let me see. This is still under the mandatory criteria,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
actually. So, like I said, I submitted 5, and then I also submitted evidence of working with partnering with another organization to train about 300 women in digital skills, and it was recognized by Forbes. So I submitted the link to the Forbes article, and then also submitted a letter from the head of the organization that I partnered with. So that was that. And then the optional criterion 3, I submitted a letter from the co-founder of the company that I was the CTMO, talking about my contributions in the design, development, and marketing of the platform. And also, because I am the co-founder of the business, I submitted the business registration documents as well for that. And then also submitted evidence of income for the business, and also evidence of me being in charge of the product. So the back end of the e-commerce platform had my name and my profile. I submitted screenshots of that as well. So yeah, basically, that's
Mm,
that sums it up. And then of
yeah.
course the reference letters and the personal statement.
Yeah, I was just about to switch to discussing the letters, but first on your
Okay.
mandatory, I think you had really strong and well presented evidences. So kudos to you on preparing all this on your own in such a nice shape and
Thank
format,
you.
because it's really important for the global talent business, especially now, to have this kind of public profile and external validations of you being a leader, and
Yeah.
things like you presented the awards, like being in top, some Forbes list or some other list. It doesn't have to be Forbes, but if you are included in a list of some kind, this is all good evidence for it to be included. Or winning competitions, public speaking. You spoke at a really large event. I think this is something that's made your profile very strong. So all those things, they like immediately I can see that it's a no-brainer that you would get the mandatory criteria. So when it comes to the letters of recommendation, maybe we could talk about who were the people who helped you with the letters, who were the experts who wrote those letters and signed them. We don't need names, but just an idea of
Yeah,
like
sure.
what kind of caliber of people that you used. Yeah.
Okay, so I had three letters as expected. So the first was from a university professor. She's a lecturer in computer science, and a lecturer in computer science. She also runs a non-profit similar to mine, where they teach young girls coding. Okay, so we've had a couple of collaborations between her nonprofit and mine. And then I also supported her in one of her research works, which she did with Wikipedia. So she was in charge of a product research for Wikipedia, and I supported her in that. So she wrote about that and wrote about how she met me. So she met me through my work and my work with the nonprofit organization. And we also got to speak at a couple of events. We were both speakers at a couple of independent events, and then I supported her with the research for Wikipedia. And then there was also someone else who was a client of the pharmaceutical business. Okay, so he was our client, as well as someone um, who he had worked in several technology companies. He was head of marketing for a very large marketplace in Africa, and he now currently runs his own product-led business, which has um, footprints across Africa, basically. So he wrote as a client of the business, saying that he knows about my work, and about that it was my work that actually made him know about the what we do and become a client of the business. And beyond that, we've already done one or two things together as well. And then the third person, excuse me, is the head of research for a what's it called now, like a hub. Okay, it's a hub that has footprints across Africa as well. So he's the head of research. He has a PhD in technology research, and we met several years ago when he was just fresh out of uni. We we met at a program and then connected and kept in touch, and then we met years later speaking, um, both of us as speakers at an event, and we got talking about our work, and um, really did keep in touch. He came visiting once. He moved out of Nigeria at some point, came visiting. So he really, kept in touch and had an idea of what I was doing, so he could write about it. So yeah, those were the three people who helped with the letters of reference.
Yeah, really nice. I think your examples are really showing that you don't have to have all your letters from your places of work. And moreover, I would say that you shouldn't have all your letters
I
just
didn't
from
even
your,
have any
yeah,
from my place of work.
yeah,
The one that I had from my place of work, I used it as an evidence.
yeah. So yeah, it's a good example. Just emphasizing this for people listening that if you worry about not having enough letters, you should really look into your network and see what people
Yes.
can vouch for you, which people know your work and who can talk about it in detail. And just basing on this example, I think it's very inspiring for people to think more creatively about who they can ask for help. Because again, working with clients, I often see people just reaching out to their skip level manager at their job, and then skip level manager at their previous job, and it kind of goes this way. But it's best to really have a wide selection of experts in your profile supporting you. So you mentioned that you use some of a letter in your evidence, right, for the criteria. Maybe you can talk about the examples of the documents that you use to support your third criteria, right? So the one that is about contributing to the growth of a product-led company. So could you give us an example of a document that you used?
Okay, so like I said, I was the co-founder of the company. So I submitted the registration papers for the company, showing that I was the co-founder, and then also a letter from the other co-founder talking about my contributions to the growth of the company. And then I also showed like bank statements for the company, how showing the revenue generated by the company, and also I showed evidence of me being in charge of the product itself, showing the back end with my profile on it. So I just had a lot of screenshots and clippings, and then the letter from the other co-founder as well.
I see. And for the second criteria, for the outside contributions, maybe you could reiterate which ones you used to prove that.
Yeah, so for that, I showed evidence of me being the founder of profit organization, the registration papers again, and then also showing a lot of links to where the nonprofit was mentioned, and showing links to the work that we do, and then also showing links to the work that I do volunteering for other non-profit organizations. So for example, I volunteer with Google Women Will. I volunteer with Google Business Groups. I volunteer with Women in Business and Management, quite a number of
Yeah.
other organizations. So, and um, I, the thing is, I wasn't even doing it at the time to, I didn't have all of this in mind. I was just doing me. I was just being helpful, just volunteering, just just liked to support women. And but as someone who is an online visibility coach, I usually tell people that whatever you're doing, let people know, because that's a mistake that a lot of people make, especially women. We do a lot of good work, but we do it in silence. so nobody knows what you're doing, and you're not getting any recognition for the work. Now, the recognition is not necessarily because you want to show off, but because you want the people who need you to see you, because if they can't see you, so that's why I was just doing my thing and getting the recognitions. And when
Yeah.
the opportunity came, I was able to just go online. It's not like I had it. I just went online and googled my name, and then I started seeing all of those things, and then started doing a lot of screenshots, downloading pictures, and just put everything together for the application.
Yeah, that's really true. Could you tell us what does it mean to be an online visibility coach?
Okay, so basically what I do is to work with business owners or business leaders, helping them to get their businesses and personal brands online and position themselves in such a way that the good work they are doing can be visible to the people who need them. So basically, what I do is look at the area of digital marketing that will fit your brand and your business, and then help you to focus on it. Because most times what people do is they don't have any strategy. So they, especially people who are like sole proprietors, there's no strategy. They just start the business and go to Instagram or something, and then they get overwhelmed and they just flunk and leave everything, and I'm like, I'm just tired, I'll just face my business. But there are things that you can put in place to ensure that when people see you as an authority in your field, and because it's what you put out that people will consume. So my work is to help you identify the things that you can put out and where you can put them out, so that you can reach the people that need you, and they can see what you're doing and come to you. So it's more like you having inbound leads instead of
Yeah.
outbound, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting how personal brand is also very important in getting the global talent visa. I wouldn't say that it's a must to be famous or to have following online or anything like that, but it certainly helps, right? Yeah, it
Yeah.
helps with finding mentions of you in media sources. As you said, you probably Googled your name and you found clippings and you found mentions. And this is actually what I recommend people do always before they apply. They should Google their name in English and also in their native language to see whether they came
Yeah.
up somewhere and gather all those things, right? Especially if you're listening to this and you're kind of thinking about applying for the visa in the future, make sure that you always save everything that appears about you online, because links tend to go dead, websites tend to disappear, and you should have that stuff on hand once you apply. So this is very interesting. I think kind of for you, since you understand marketing, this was maybe a bit easier than for software engineers, for instance, who a lot of them don't really um, spend time building a personal brand. A lot of people
Yeah.
struggle with this, like there is this imposter syndrome. So maybe as an expert in marketing, you could share just some tips for people who are worrying about showing themselves online, kind of talking about their work and promoting themselves. And also you said that women have a problem with doing it, and women do a lot of good work but in silence. So maybe you could give tips to anybody, but maybe some specific tips to women that would help them overcome this kind of imposter syndrome.
Okay, so the first thing that I would say is that you need to understand that what you're doing is helping people, right? What you're doing. So I see my work as what people need. So if people need what I'm doing and I'm hiding it, then I'm doing them an injustice. So that's what actually made me, because I'm naturally a shy person. If people who really know me know that if you invite me to an event to speak, once I'm off the stage, I'm back to my shy, persona. But then I got to the point where I had to tell myself that people need you. So you can't keep hiding. If God has given you these gifts, you have to use it. So people need what you do. They need to see it. And if you're hiding it, they're not going to see it. So now what you can do is um and this is what I do with a lot of my clients. You need to understand how your personality type can show up online. So we don't all have the same personality types, right? So there are different ways. There are people who are extremely extroverted. They can show up, show their families, show everything about their lives. But there's some other people who would rather be, you know, private and all. There are ways that you can be visible and yet be private. So another thing that I'm going to say, which will be really practical, is that you can set up um, like an alert, a digital alert for your name, right, on Google. So
Mm.
there's Google Alerts. You can go to Google Alerts, set up an alert for your name, for your business or your company, so that when anybody writes anything about you or your business or your brand or whatever it is, you get an email to say that someone this, and then the link is there, so you can click on the link and see it. And if it's something that you want to save, you save it. You save the link, bookmark it, take some screenshots, download some pictures and all of that. And whenever someone writes about you, write about that person writing about you. So it's yes. So for example, if I see a newspaper clipping about myself, I'm going to write about it on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, that, oh, see what I saw in the press. Okay, so it's easier that way because somebody wrote about you. Now, the flyer for this meeting we're having, for example, you did it, and then I wrote about it on LinkedIn, that, oh, and even on Instagram, that Nadia is
Mm-hmm.
making me do this, because I'd been saying that I wanted to I'd been saying that I wanted to do a YouTube video about, how you can get the global talent visa. But like I said, I'm I'm not that extroverted, so it was a struggle, and it's easier. So it's actually easier to collaborate with other people, especially if you're
Yeah.
someone who is an introvert, you're shy. Let somebody interview you, right? Reach out to
Yeah.
people and say, oh, can we do something together? When you're with someone, it becomes easier because you're not just talking to yourself, you're not smiling at yourself. So yeah, I think those tips should help.
These are all excellent. So first of all, I will set up a Google alert for my name. That's very cool advice.
Okay.
And second, all great tips. I think the fact that you mentioned about collaboration, I think is really important. And first of all, like, thank you so much for doing the interview, since you said that, you were going to do it for a while. And now, it will be out there and you can just send people to this record. And, if they ask you, how do I get the visa? This is the benefit of doing the interview, because people would ask my guests all the time, the same questions over and over. And then you can just send them to the recording and they can learn the basics from it and you don't have to spend time on it. But yeah, this is definitely good advice. I would say that for people who are trying to build up their brand for the visa, or also, for just career development, I would strongly recommend you trying to collaborate and trying to get interviewed on some channels, right? So for instance, for me, since I'm doing this channel, it's growing, but it's still not huge. So for me, it's if somebody reaches out and says, hey, would you like to interview me? I'm very happy, because it means that I don't have to look for this person somewhere, right? I don't have to spend my own time looking for a guest. And this is the case actually for a lot of smaller bloggers and YouTubers. Like, it takes time to find guests. So if you can suggest yourself as a guest, it's actually a big service to the person. And as you just said, and this is crucial, I think, if you are doing something good and valuable, and you are not telling people about it, then you are doing them a disservice. So being silent about your work is a disservice to the world. So, and kind of disservice to your own gifts and, you know, what you are supposed to do in this world. So this is all true. I think this also kind of helps to share, for instance, for me as well, kind of promoting my own work as a coach. It happens organically because I enjoy talking about it. But also I do find it important for people to learn about this information. And then, you know, once they know, they can make their own decision, whether they work with me, with somebody else, you know, with my competitors, although I don't think I have competitors. I think there are enough clients for everybody. Or, you know, they do whatever, but they need to have access to this information. So I think that if you're, you know, a specialist in whatever field, I think sharing it online in the format that works for you, I think is really crucial. So really good that you talked about it. And then again, people watching this, they can probably reach out to you if they need help with their branding or their marketing. There are links to your profile in the description. So, you know, if somebody is interested, they can reach out as well. So to sum up, I'm wondering what we haven't discussed yet. I think the personal statement is the one that we haven't touched upon. Any tips on writing a winning personal statement for a marketer?
Okay, so my tip will be tell a story. Okay, tell a story because people don't really like reading anymore. Okay, so you have to
Okay.
write personal statements in a way that grab people's attention from, you know, the first statement. So I started my personal statement with so I think the first thing I wrote was the first time that I had a personal computer was in my first year of university. That was the first thing that I wrote in my personal statement because you know when you read that you would want to read further that, oh really, how
Yeah.
do you understand? The first time, and then at that time there were no mobile phones, so I wrote that story and started from how I got fascinated with computers from secondary school, and was able to now get my own personal computer at the university, and talked about how I started working and had to leave my job to start a family and then started a business. It was just a story of my life, but how that ended up helping me becoming who I am. It was a story of me leaving paid employment because I needed to be there for my family, starting a business, and then seeing that I'll rather be marketing the business, and moved into marketing, and then just taking it step by step, telling a story. So that would be my advice for anyone who is thinking of, applying for the Global Talent Visa. Tell a story with your statement, a story that the person reading can follow and is interesting enough to keep their attention.
Yeah, great advice. I agree. I think all marketing is ultimately about storytelling, and the personal statement is the first document that technician will read in your application. So it's very important to create the correct impression, right? So if you want them to remember and know certain things about you, you should spend a lot of time on the personal statement. I know that a lot of people think that it's not important and they write it like last minute and don't care about it. I think it's a huge mistake. You should spend time on it. And as you said, like saying something unusual that catches attention is obviously helpful. And in general, I think my tip would be to make your whole case interesting and make it easy to read, easy to scan, because they won't have that much time for it, right? So those things really help. And yeah, I think learning from examples from other people who have a similar background as you, I think, is also helpful. So this is the reason why these interviews, I think, are useful for people who are preparing on their own or with somebody else. But yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground. I wanted to also remind people, if you're watching this live, you can ask a question now. So you still have a few minutes to do that. You can also ask later in comments. I will be answering them, but this is like a live show, so this is your chance. So let's see what we had already. We just had people clapping and applauding. So just do you and be helpful. I agree. So like, as to being you, I would say that for everybody, there is something that you want to do for the community, right? Some kind of volunteering or open source or something like this. Just choose something that you really want to do and do it. Don't just do something that somebody did for the visa, right? Find something that you are passionate about. And you can maybe use the visa as an excuse to do it, but it should come from a place of you being interested in something, right? So I think this is helpful. Okay, there is another question. Must the marketing experience come from a product-based organization? So maybe you can start, and then I will expand on that.
Okay, so for the visa, yes, actually. Okay. Now, like I said earlier, I have about 13 years digital marketing experience, out of just 3 was a product-led company. Okay. So it was those 3 years that technician considered for the application, not all the other years. So it doesn't mean that if you have other years outside of product-led organization, then you do not qualify. What it just means is you should have some years in a product-led organization.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think there is no like hard and fast rule as to how many years you should have, in product-led companies. It's more flexible than that, but I've also heard stories of people applying with just agency work. So at least one case of a designer who just used their agency experience, and they were able actually to get the visa, but it was a very specific case. So they were working at a kind of boutique exclusive kind of agency, like with very like top level clients like Google and Apple. And they were able to prove that their skills were so unique that they weren't available on the open market, and kind of, working with the agency was the only way to work with them or something like this. So it's possible, but it's much trickier, and you should have very solid evidences. Then you should have like solid awards, publications, and all of that stuff. So make sure that you also kind of understand, which documents you're using, and if you're going this way. But I think using product-led experience is solid. It increases your chances of getting endorsed. So that's very important. There was just another comment thank you for the video. Thank you so much for watching. So if you're watching this live, again, my usual ask is to like the video, share it with friends, subscribe to the channel if you're not watching this on YouTube. This is where a lot of videos are, all of the videos are released, and you can find other videos like this. So for instance, I've already interviewed, I think, 2 or 3 other digital marketers, by this time. So you can find those interviews there as well and learn from them, along with other IT professionals as well. Okay, so there's another comment. Nadia will be on the interview soon, so hopefully, yes. Let me know once you get endorsed, and I'll be happy to interview you. Okay, another one. It's my first time in this audience. Grateful to hear Olubunmi's experience. I'm from a more technical background. I could relate to what Olubunmi said about being private, and just wanted to find out how much out there someone needs to be for the technician consideration. So maybe you could share first, and then I can chime in with what I think about the, being out there part.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the question, Charles. So, it doesn't mean that you as a person have to have your private business out there, but your work should be out there. Like I said, So for example, if you were invited to speak at an event, put the poster on your LinkedIn profile and go and search for the link to the event. Take a screenshot and save it somewhere, because you never know when you will need it. So it's not necessary that you as a person have your personal business out there. Technician doesn't even care about that. It's about the work that you do. Okay, so the work that you do should be out there as much as possible. And then it's not just about you, it's also about the company that you're working with. So the company should also have a public profile, because technician will go and find out about the company as well. So it's about your company being out there, and the work that you do also being out there as well.
I agree. I think when people think about, I don't know, being a blogger or a YouTuber, they think that they should share, like every detail of their private life online, but it's not really necessary. And, you shouldn't do that if you don't want to, right? It's more about, as you said, sharing your work online. So for instance, Charles, I think you mentioned that you're from a more technical background. So first of all, as I said, like, go to my channel, you will see a lot of interviews with programmers. If you're a programmer, who some of them actually used the second criteria, so the outside work, and you can see like what kind of evidences they used, how they presented themselves, but also you will see that some of the candidates, they don't really have any kind of following on social media or anything like that. So you can pick and choose what you use, but as was said before, you should share your work publicly. It's, if you're presenting your writing on technical topics as a piece of evidence for technician, you should show that people are actually reading it. You should show statistics. You should show how many followers you have on your blog, or how many views you got on your blog, because this is something that they sometimes reject for. If they say that, okay, you have a blog, but nobody reads it, right? The idea here is to show that you are a leader as a thought leader, right? As an opinion leader. So you have some knowledge, you're sharing it with the world, and people are following you and they are reading your thoughts on a technical issue. So this is why it's important. And I think that if you are really passionate about expanding your network, growing your career possibilities, but also potentially moving to the UK and getting this visa, I think that you should just weigh, the pros and cons of having it or not having it, right? So if you really want to have it, then probably it will become easier for you to overcome this kind of imposter syndrome, or just this hesitancy to put stuff out there. Because I know that it's hard to put yourself out there. So for me, it was super nerve-wracking to start this YouTube channel, and I've wanted to start it for a couple of years, and then when I did, it was super scary. But then it brought a lot of good in my life, right? So the thing that you put out there, you never know what will happen. You never know who will read it, and you never know what kind of opportunities it will connect you to. So hopefully that's helpful, Charles, and it will get you inspired. But as I said, check out stories of other software engineers, other technical folks, because I do find that people who work in marketing or in product, they usually have less trouble presenting their evidences and creating their case than software engineers. So in my experience, software engineers and technical candidates, they really struggle with selling themselves in a good way. So I do encourage you to check out other examples of people who have done it. And there was another comment that listening to Olubunmi has been insightful. I agree. It was very insightful. So so to wrap up, maybe you can share some of your tips, your learnings, and anything that you wish somebody told you before you started this process. Just some parting thoughts for fellow marketers out there who wants to get endorsed.
Okay, so I think something that I didn't mention before that I think is worthy of mention is the fact that if you can, you should have a personal website for yourself, for your name. And this is not even just about the global talent visa. It's just about the fact that, so for example, I go for an event, I meet a speaker, I'm going to go back and Google that person. I do it a lot, so I assume that other people will also do it. Now, if you have your own personal website, it will make it easier for people to find you when they're Googling your name, okay? So you might be wondering, what will you put on this website? Put the programs that you've spoken at, the open source, the all the technical things that you've done. Put the links there. Talk about yourself in your professional capacity. And for anyone who is thinking of applying to technician for the global talent visa, what I would tell you is to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. So there's someone who I met just a couple of months ago, and she's already in the UK on the student visa. And I when we got talking, I was like, you would qualify for the technician visa. Why don't you apply? And she's like, are you sure? Are you this? Are you that? And so I just said, gather your evidences and apply. And she sent me a message today that she got the endorsement, and I'm really so happy. So believe in yourself. Now, there are people that have been rejected and they went back. The good thing about it is you can go back and represent your case. Okay, so don't even reject yourself before you have been rejected. Right?
Yeah.
Present your case first. Yeah. Like I said, I did the eligibility test on the platform, and I was told that I will not be eligible. The first time I did the eligibility test. But then I went back and sat down and really looked at the criteria, and suited my experience to the criteria. So I started picking out of my experiences what will suit this criteria, what will suit that criteria. So don't just write off yourself because you took the eligibility test and it says you might not be eligible. Still, try. You never really know what might happen.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you for sharing. I agree. I think that rejecting yourself before you get rejected by technician is not a good strategy. You should try.
Yeah.
If you get rejected, you can appeal. It's free, or you can apply again. You have to pay, but it's not the end of the world. Again, if you go on my YouTube and you put in the search rejection, you will see people talking about them being rejected and then overturning the decision. So it happens more often than you might think. I think the numbers that technician shared was about 50% of people getting rejected, and then I don't know what the numbers are for people who get endorsed on the second attempt, and obviously those numbers would be lower if you're working with a coach or a lawyer who are worth their title. So I would assume that this is cost a lot by people who are applying on their own and maybe making some mistakes that you wouldn't make with a professional. But in any case, it's worth applying. You can always reapply. It doesn't influence your visa history. So really, there is no harm in trying, especially if you have the time, or the budget to do it. So that's all good. And yeah, I think that we can wrap up. There was another last question. How do you learn about your online visibility coaching?
Okay, so you can send me an email. My email address is Fajuyigbe Olubunmi at gmail.com. Sorry. And then you can also
We'll add the email to the description.
yes.
We have
So you
we
can
have the link to Olubunmi's LinkedIn. Maybe people can reach out to you
okay,
there as well.
perfect. So you can reach out to
Yeah.
me on LinkedIn. That will actually be better.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are links on YouTube, and then if you're watching this on LinkedIn, you can obviously see the speaker. So make sure to reach out. And yeah, if you're
Yeah, and
looking
I
for
also
help
have a
with the
YouTube channel,
Oh yeah. Okay.
but yeah.
Okay. You should
But
okay. If you send me the link afterwards, and I'll edit so that people
okay.
can subscribe to your channel as well. So that's really
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, if people need help with their online branding, then I think it's worth reaching out. And then if if you need help with coaching when it comes to applying for the visa, this is my website. You can check out, which kind of services I offer and just learn more about me and my work. Oh, there was another question. Okay. Let's take a look quickly. So is it possible for someone who is digital marketing to choose OC1, which is the innovation criteria? My previous company, URL software Google Chrome extension tool, got Google patent ID, but it's expired a few years ago and didn't update yet. Not sure if this can still be used as evidence. Can I use my marketing strategies to show that I improved the product innovation? My contribution is mainly for commercial impact and OC3. Do you have any thoughts on this, or should I chime in here?
So this person says it's expired a few years ago. Now, it will depend on how many years, because from what I know, it has to be, any evidence has to be within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So if it's more than 5 years, then you can't use it as evidence in to technician. But if it's within 5 years and it meets the criteria, then I think you can go ahead and put it in.
Yeah, for innovation, I would say that it's tricky to meet it. I think that the expectations for innovation have risen with technician recently, especially. So I've seen some rejections on forums and chats with people getting rejected for the innovation criteria. I think it depends on your specific case, and I think here I would be happy to look into your case. Personally, I can discuss the details of it, but if you want to understand whether it's applicable, as was said, look at it to that it has to be recent. So I usually try to make the whole case about the last 5 years so that it's all recent and it's all kind of in context of the recency requirement. And then if you are choosing this criteria, you should make sure that you're showing how you specifically contributed to the innovation, right? So you should show that you were the leader behind the innovation of the product. And this is where, like, if you are building an innovative product, then the chances are much higher. If you are in a function that is supporting somebody who's building an innovative product, then it becomes riskier and harder to explain, but also like provide context as to what was the innovation, why it was an innovation, because just given a patent ID, it's not enough. You should provide context still. But innovation is tricky. And I think usually with clients, we try to evaluate which one is easier for them, the first criteria or the second one, right? Because the third, usually everybody chooses. So pretty much everybody. So I think here it's worth determining like what is better for you, like what is stronger for you, first or the second. But yeah, this is kind of going into details of a specific case, but I try to share a generic thinking that might help you, hopefully. So let us know in the comments later. But yeah, we don't have any more questions. I hope that this was useful for people. Let us know in the comments what you learned, whether you liked it or not. Again, like and subscribe and support. Just share the video with people who you think might benefit from it. It's very hard to get the word out. I think we talk about it so much about this visa and still pretty much nobody knows about it, especially people who are not programmers. They still don't know that they can qualify for it. So marketers can qualify for it. I interviewed a musician last night, actually, that got the global talent visa. So there are so many specialties that can get endorsed. It's just that they are, different endorsement bodies that do that. So yeah, but the opportunities are pretty much endless. So again, if you're not sure if you can qualify with your own specialty, you can reach out to me. LinkedIn is the best place to reach out. So yeah, I think this covers it. I wanted to thank everybody for joining. I want to thank you, Olubunmi, for your time and sharing your story tonight.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope this wasn't too stressful.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really glad that we got to record your story, and yeah, it will help others prepare for the visa as well, I'm sure. Thank you everybody for joining, and I wish everybody a lovely evening. Thank you and bye.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.